Hello everyone, and welcome back for the Week 7 overview for English 1520, the Comp 2 Asynchronous Online 1520 at OCC. Students, the note on here for this, my apologies, I'm posting these later on Monday. Processing and a few other things have been a little bit of an issue, but in addition to processing, also had a few issues here at the end of the term with having to address certain things with individual students. And trying to do that in a timely, concise manner. Make sure that if you are completing work for this term and you have notes from me, commentary, feedback files, whatever those are, make sure that you've reviewed them. Up to this point, it's been difficult with some of the submissions coming in as incorrect file types or at varied times. And I've done my best to try and keep up with those. I am noting last week and this week I'm trying to make sure that students in the class have had their things in on time and there haven't been any issues in those other areas. I am trying to make sure you get your feedback on the research component pieces first. That hasn't worked out perfectly, though I am still making that attempt. It's now Monday at around 9, and I'll be posting this up shortly for the overview for Week 7, which is essentially your last overview. I still will post one in Week 8, but that's just for the final submission of final drafting. And as long as the component pieces that I see come in on Sunday, when I check them on Sunday night and Monday, as long as those are good, we won't have any issue with you submitting the final ones. But the elements here, I've had a number of different things where I posted that thing about the submissions for research, and I hope everybody took the time to read over those comments there. What I am posting right now after reviewing all these files, there are a number of issues with at least the starting point of a lot of these, the framing and context. A lot of students writing in first and second person, a lot of students writing analysis points in research statements in the research piece that so far are quite subjective and at times not really relevant to the topic you're discussing. If we're talking about any of these topics, regardless of the framing we're putting on them in our own individual research pieces, the research that you're doing still stems from third-person objective research that was conducted by somebody else that was then presented in peer review and made it through peer review, and that's all you're sourcing. I want you to note that what you're doing is staying consistent with that and presenting now your third-person objective analysis of the research as it exists. You're presenting things in a historical context for those of you especially doing things with like media literacy, scientific literacy, the benefits of daily exercise, both physical and mental health benefits on those. Those things on, as far as a topic goes, there's a historical relevancy that we want to make sure is one of the first things that is addressed in the intro paragraph. If you're going to do something on scientific or media literacy, let's make sure that we frame this contextually in terms of the contemporary moment. We're not really concerned about information literacy in the 16 and 1700s, for those of you drifting off in some of these areas. I know some of the research pieces can say some things about those, but that's not where our research is right now for this course. If you're talking about things like health, the mental and physical health benefits of daily exercise, I don't want something that gives the reader some starting point about the origin of the Olympic Games or something thousands of years ago. I tried to make comment on this originally when we started with this assignment, but I want to make sure that at the very least everybody knows this moving forward. And I do have the majority of the summary with working thesis ready to go. Primary points of support won't be much longer afterwards, but by Wednesday I should have all of those files with the summary and working thesis and primary points of support and the outlines, at least a quick review of the outline and whether or not everything is included there, and whether you followed the correct framing for quote formatting in those broad strokes, right? Now, I want you to also be able to get on top of these right away for drafting by this weekend, and I am going to also open up this optional extra credit piece. I need another day or so to continue to fix some of the framing in this. It was something when I posted it, I didn't realize that there was something slightly off for making an extra credit piece. It was still listed with all the primary. There were other requirements that were a bit too extensive there. But so for this week, for week 7, everybody essay with abstract works cited rough draft due this weekend. There's no peer review for this forum, so make sure that you guys note any of this stuff that we're doing now. You know what the peer review forum was like. You know what your performance was like in there. When it comes to the framing for the rough draft, you guys need to be paying attention to the diagnostic that I marked at the beginning of the term and what the tutoring recommendations were there. I have 6 or 7 students in here with YTR 3s. And I only have 1 student who's gone through a tutoring session. I have 6 or 7 others who are YTR 2s, and then a few of you who are just the YTR 1s, which, you know, meant that there was nothing recommended. It would be totally up to you. But for YTR 2s and 3s, if you did not heed that recommendation, and I'm seeing submissions where there are still all kinds of spelling, usage, sentence level issues, grammar mechanics, style, all of those, including so many students with rhetorical analysis, still submitted rough and final drafts that had second person and first person and informal phrasing and things like that about the analysis given on those devices. Those were problematic to say the least. And remember, in a Comp 2, not only is it not part of the purview of the college professor to focus on those lower level basic remediation issues, it is the student's responsibility to address those in any way that they need to, and we offer the tutoring for that very reason. Otherwise, those files through the remainder of the term will get graded accordingly. I can't justify A grades on papers, even if an analysis is decent. I can't justify an A grade when there are fragments and misspelled words and usage, and then particularly when we're talking about things that are in the primary requirements. So if we're looking at this piece here for our rough draft, you guys have roughly 1,200 plus words plus the works cited page. If we're looking at these basic content things, headings, centered title, subheadings, they are optional. I'm saying on this, utilize this student research paper sample here for you guys. You note these subtitles on this. I think it's best to have these because it does help you stay on track with what you're doing. You'll see, for some of you on the rhetorical analysis, you still had a number of issues with framing and formatting of the page itself. Make sure this is up here in the margin. This is far too long down the development line on our assignments and things to still have issues like this. 1510, it's 1520, obviously. This is one that I use for 2 different levels of classes, slightly different requirements. But abstract, remember that the abstract is the only time you can have an announcement statement. So that calls attention, and it like breaking a fourth wall. The research right here that you're about to see, it states these different things and does this different, you know, this is the framing of it. This is where the research was taken from, or all the information was sourced and then taken from for citation. And then there's an introduction, body 1, body 2, body 3. This is in keeping with framing of like a formatted report. And then down here after the edits, the works cited page that includes the alphabetical order of the sources themselves. I also want to note for a lot of you guys, these were problematic. I had a number of students in this last round of submissions with the summary and working thesis and primary points of support. For the most part, guys, if you're getting articles from the databases, not books, not documentaries, articles from the journals, those elements typically will have a DOI. Sometimes they will have something with an access point, accessed on such and such date, but that's not very common anymore. and just remember the framing and format here is not optional. It's at the top of the page. It's works cited, both capitalized, everything in the starting with the alphabetical order of the first letter that's listed for the entry, which is typically going to be the last name, first name of an author. Every line after the first is a hanging indent. You can see that for each one of these entries, and you can see how many of these had DOIs, and there's a slight deviation on this because of some of the things that I allowed in this particular 1510 class. For you guys, for the most part, everyone would have DOIs on those, and I made comments on many of them about the issues that were present with some of the citation things, and then also the sourcing on the works cited page. I had a number of you that gave me sources that were .orgs. Certainly that should be a red flag for you if there's something that has a .org listed like that, and that's the main file heading of the source information. You know, there may be a .org where something has been published in some .org, but the sourcing for us should all be through database. All these different elements apply: general to specific intro, 2 to 3 bodies. Some of you, I know a couple of students are ending up with 4 bodies. That's okay too. Adequate support, 2 direct quotes in each body. Now look, I have some instructional elements on here. Students had asked about paraphrasing. Yes, in the bodies, the essential requirements, it's 6 quotes total. If you got 2 body paragraphs, you're going to have 3 and 3. If you got 3 body paragraphs, it's 2 in each one. Make sure that you follow the correct formatting. This is a detail over the requirements. All these basics on here of writing in full sentences and third person, making sure the paper must have a centered title and everything follows the general punctuation mechanics. Make sure you read over all these elements, and make sure when you guys are giving the quoted content, you follow this procedural organization of it. Use it for a major support, use the quote as a minor support to the major support claim that you make, not the other way around. You should be making a statement about something that you found in the research. The quote should support it. Also, don't give me the full titles of articles in the outline or in drafting stage. You can abbreviate them, but typically you can just refer to the author or authors or researcher or researchers. Primary context. Yeah, I think that's it on those guys. And the drafting on here, make sure that you guys, everybody should have feedback from me by Wednesday for summary and working thesis, primary points of support, and works cited. I'm hoping to also have those outlines back by then. If those aren't first thing on Wednesday, then it'd be Wednesday night to Thursday afternoon, but that would be the absolute last. I am going to post this up as optional extra credit, a short piece on cultural impact analysis, and I'm going to put a few optional readings that are going to be listed here in this course schedule under week 7. I'm going to include a few of them right here, and then this Dropbox will be accessible. It won't be open on the 18th. I'm planning on still opening it this evening. All right? Let me know if you guys get questions, and I know that a few students just finally realized that this is the messaging for the term. Please note that's been the case since it's always been my policy, particularly for online-only classes. We use instant messaging, and that is something that if you have any concerns or anything else with commentary or things that we need to continue to review this week, make sure you message me here. Also, I had a few students where, unfortunately, some of the submissions that I got, and this is something that took up a little bit of extra time this week, got some files that are flagged for generative artificial intelligence use. Remember, we put them through a multi-level process now. In 2 years of now doing this, I haven't had a case that wasn't 100% confirmed by the end of it. So please make sure that if you got messaging from me about that, I automatically implement the required in-person meeting in my syllabus. It means anybody who does receive that on anything rhetorical analysis or the research pieces, you will have to meet with me in person. And I have very few options to offer, but I do have some things if it is an issue that I can address without having to go around in circles and have, other issues and other people at the college have to get involved, like having to include, if we have to include administration because a student is denying it and there are other things going on there, then we're going to have, that's going to have to go that direction, and I'll just implement zero tolerance and it'll go that direction. But at the very least, it has to be an in-person meeting and then doing a writing assessment to determine whether or not the student can demonstrate the ability to be in this level, and that the work was any of the work that was submitted was their own without significant modification of a GAI system. All right, I look forward to seeing